Hey guys, welcome back to Yarnum. Today we find ourselves in Cainhurst. I'm here just so I can pick up a few bloodstone chunks. There's about 3 or 4 in the early part of the castle, and we need enough to upgrade to our axe to a +7. And once we've got those, we'll move on to another part of the game. Just a quick heads up, even though I'm in Cainhurst, I'm not going to be talking about the lore in this area at all, to be honest. Just because I want to talk about the Darkbeasts in this episode. Once I've actually collected all the bloodstone chunks I need, I'm going to go back to the dream, upgrade my axe, and then I'm going to move on to Yahar'gul to take on Darkbeast Paarl. But I just wanted to leave this part of the video in here, just in case anybody's wondering how exactly to get the stone chunks. Okay, first of all, if you're looking for an in-depth discussion about Darkbeasts, I recommend you look at the video created by Redgrave, the author of the Pale Blood Hunt, who has a very good video. I'll actually put a link to it in the description, so if you want a longer explanation of the Darkbeasts and their origin, he has a very good summary of it. So, from what I've read and seen from other people's work on the subject, the most popular theory on Darkbeasts goes like this. They're the final form of the beast, the plague of the beasts. So everybody who takes the old blood eventually, obviously first of all, turns into a minor beast. You know, the kinds of ones you see in Central Yarnum, the hunter beasts and the werewolves. And eventually they go through several stages. The next stage seems to be the silver beasts that you find in the Nightmare Frontier and a couple of other areas. And then the next stage is that you turn into perhaps the abhorrent beast, and then finally you become a dark beast. And what's interesting about the dark beasts is that they're described as being undead, which implies to me at least that the plague of the beasts actually makes you immortal and unkillable to a certain extent. Obviously you can be killed, I suppose, but if you're not physically torn apart or killed by a hunter, you could potentially live on forever in this undead state. Now, Darkbeast Paarl, who we're going to meet later on, he's really interesting because he drops the Spark Hunter badge, the description of which states, badge crafted in secret by Archibald, the infamous eccentric of the Healing Church, for his friends. Archibald was fascinated by the blue sparks that emanate from the hides of the Darkbeasts, and dedicated his life to its artificial reproduction, in a style of inquiry that, incidentally, closely followed the methodology of Bergenworth. Now there's 3 points of information there that are really interesting if you like lore. First of all, the statement that he crafted it for his friends. Considering we get the badge from Darkbeast Paarl when we kill him, I think it's pretty obvious that Paarl was one of Archibald's friends. But I really want to go into discussion about the other 2 points. First of all, his method for artificially reproducing the sparks of the Darkbeast, and secondly, his style of inquiry, and how it followed the methodology of Bergenworth. Now, what is the methodology of Bergenworth? Well, if we read the Eye rune description, it states that Eye symbolises the truth Master Willem sought in his research. Disillusioned by the limits of human intellect, he looked up to beings from higher planes for guidance, and sought to line his brain with eyes in order to elevate his thoughts. Now, if we look at the Great One's wisdom item, it states, used to gain insight. At Bergenworth, Master Willem had an epiphany. We are thinking on the basis of planes. What we need are more eyes. So it's clear that Master Willem sought to gain insight by lining his brain with eyes. Now I'm not talking metaphorically here. He literally wanted to line his brain and the brains of his followers with eyes. I'll discuss that in more detail when we get to Bergenworth. But for now, let's just accept the fact that he physically wanted to line his brain with eyes. So what I take from the Spark Hunter badge description is that Archibald went down the same route as Willem, as in his style of inquiry did not involve partaking of the old blood, which is really interesting because he was a member of, well, I believe he was a member of the School of Mensis. You find a lot of his items there, including Paarl, and obviously Mensis is a part of the Healing Church, so it would have been quite strange that he didn't partake in the old blood, and obviously that explains the line in the description that he was an eccentric, basically implying that he was different from everyone else. And I think what made him different, even though he had the same goals as the rest of the church, is the fact that he did not partake in the old blood and wanted to go down a different route. And he wasn't the only one, by the way. If you read a note in the lecture building, it states that Master Willem was right. Evolution without courage will be the ruin of our race. So clearly, many people in the healing church realized that partaking in the old blood was a bad idea. And I think that's what explains Darkbeast Paarl, because the problem I have with the the Darkbeast being a final evolution of the beasthood theory is that why is it that Paarl is the only Darkbeast in the game that we see, at least in Yharnam? It's clear that he was a friend of Archibald. Archibald existed in the same time as the rest of the healing church, so you'd think there were a lot of other Darkbeasts lying around, because they are pretty powerful and they wouldn't be easy for people to kill. So why isn't there more of them outside of Lauren? So for that reason I believe that Archibald managed to achieve something that no one else in the healing church in Yharnam did, which is basically creating a Darkbeast. So how did Archibald achieve this? Well, there's a couple of possibilities in my mind. Let's think back to the Rune Workshop tool. The description states that Provost Willem would have been proud of Carol's runes, as they do not rely upon blood in any measure. So that implies that Carol runes use the same similar technique to Bergenworth because they don't rely upon blood, and we know that's exactly what Archibald was doing. So there's a chance that he might have developed a technique that's similar to Carol runes that allow men to turn into beasts in a different form. For example, thanks to the DLC, we know about the Embrace rune, which literally allows you to take beast form. Also, there's the Suspicious Beggar, who apparently can turn into a beast at will. When you attack him, his transformation isn't like anybody else's. He doesn't just evolve into a beast. It seems like he retains his sanity, so it seems like to a certain extent he's in control of his beasthood, and there's a good chance that there's a similar process or similar technique that Archibald found in order to change Paarl and others into the Darkbeasts. The only difference being that the Darkbeasts are undead, and it doesn't seem as if Paarl was able to retain his memories or his sanity, or that he is able to control his transformation. It seems like he's stuck as being a Darkbeast. Okay, here we are in Yahar'gul, so we're just about to get to Paarl, but before we do, you'll notice that we're just running through a area in Yahar'gul that looks like a cell, and I think that was Paarl's cell. As other people have already said in different discussions, he broke out of Yahar'gul, so he was being experimented on, or at least was prisoner there for a while. So the boss itself, you can fight him either in your short axe or long axe form. I started off with the short axe form, but I eventually moved into the long axe because you get more reach. But the aim of the fight should always be to try and get right underneath him, and once you do that, you've got to keep attacking him until he looks down at you. Once he does that, he's going to do his big AoE attack, where he basically just does a big bolt of lightning, and you got to get out of there quickly. And if you do that, you'll avoid the only one-shot attack he's got. Other than that, his slashing is not really that difficult to deal with. Obviously, the quickest way to get to him is through the front, so you've got to avoid each time, but if you get the timing right, you should be able to dodge most of it. Obviously, I'm using fire paper here as well. What you want to do is make sure that you keep attacking him until he gets to a stage where he loses his bolts, which makes him a lot weaker. And I think I'm about to do that in a second. There we go. So he doesn't actually have multiple phases, Paarl. He just has like a couple of modes. The bolt mode and the non-bolt mode, and when he doesn't have bolt attack with him, he's actually a lot weaker, and obviously he tries to run away and get it back, which is the point where you need to put pressure on him to actually get him down again. And basically it's just a case of rinse and repeat. If you keep doing that, you'll pretty much take care of him quite easily. Obviously you've got to be careful, he's still one of the more dangerous bosses and he can get you, but if you keep just doing the same thing, you should be okay. I think it actually took me about a dozen tries maybe to actually get him, so he's not easy to do, especially when you're doing a OneBro run. But it's not, anywhere near as difficult as I was afraid it would be, especially at this point. I was afraid that I might have to come back at a later point to beat him, but I managed to do it. Okay, that's it then. Okay guys, if you enjoyed the video as usual, like it, and if you want to see more, subscribe, and if you've got anything to say, just leave a comment, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.